Well, welcome back to Social Studies. It's been a while. And we all just talked a brief bit about what happened before we left off. So, really fast review. The French and Indian War was taking place. Who won that battle, class? Cadence? British won. Okay, so the British took control. And if you look up here, this is Indiana before the French and Indian War. Okay? So, anything in purple is which country? Guys, look up here. What's in purple? What country? Hudson?
French.
French. And who is represented by the orange? Eric?
Native American.
Look at your,
Key.
look up at your key up there.
No, the slide. I can't see it.
Ah, too far. No worries. That was a good guess, though. They definitely, so they were all over this map, but they're not even listed, right? But they probably should be. They lived all over the place. Madeline?
I think it says British.
Yes, the orange is British. Shh, please be quiet, guys. It's getting kind of noisy for the speaker. So the orange is British. So British had all the colonies, and they had some of this land up here. And who had Florida and down here by Texas? Angie?
Spanish.
The Spanish, okay? So those were the three main groups we learned about, other than the Native Americans. All right, now disputed, that's a big fancy word for we couldn't get along about it. We can't decide who owns it. So the area that's disputed would be all of this part. So this land, I bet there were a lot of fights there over who was in charge of it. Okay, the other little chunk of land that's disputed is right up in here between the French and the British. Do you think they had fights along here too? I would imagine that they did. All right, now, question one. Which country or countries controlled land that is now Indiana before the French and Indian War? Who can read the map? Abby?
French.
The French, okay? Indiana, they outlined it here in red. It was the French. Which country or countries controlled land that is now Indiana after the French and Indian War? And what special use did that land have? Now, hold on, I got to click my page to show the other map. After the war, who controlled Indiana? Alex? Who's our stripey guys?
British.
British. All right, now, what does it say after that?
Reserved for Native Americans.
Think about that.
That's nice.
Reserved for Native Americans. What does that mean? And Hayden just said that's nice. I think I agree. Josiah, what do you think that means?
Reservations right now.
Yep.
They still have those.
Yeah. Did they set up basically a reservation as space for the Native Americans to live? That's what that means, okay? They set that land aside, all of this, for Native Americans. Now, it's a happy story now because we don't at this point know what comes. We kind of know what comes.
Cool.
Did this land always stay that way for them?
No.
Well, I mean, look who lives here now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So over time, they kept getting pushed further and further west. So there are reservations still. I've been to many of them. Josiah,
My mom used to work there and live there.
yeah, so he knows a lot about it. So there are still reservations, but not as many, and they're not right here where we live. All right, next slide. Yes, Noah.
This here, don't the Native Americans don't pay taxes?
That would be a different topic for a different type of day. Okay.
They have to pay it.
All right, I'm going to talk nice and loud so hopefully you can hear me in the front. We have seen parts of this video, but we stopped before we really got into this part. This is going to lead us into the next portion of our story. We are watching 1 minute of the video, so please pay attention. I do have to get to 3:17 though, so give me 1 minute.
He's ugly.
With the Proclamation
We
of
haven't gotten
1763, the British tried to keep their colonists from moving west of the Appalachian Mountains.
Okay, so before we finish watching this, a proclamation is fancy. You know, a long time ago, people used different type of words that were fancy. Okay, so a proclamation is just an important statement. Okay, that's basically what it means. An important statement of 1763. What it meant. Okay, remember we just talked about the colonies. Britain didn't want their people moving west. Okay, they wanted them to stay put right here. Why do you think the British people, mainly the king, Why did he not want his colonists to move out of those colonies? Think about it. Think about what they gave him if they lived in the colonies. And think about what he'd lose out on if they left. Quentin? Money. Who agrees? We talked a little bit about taxes. We're going to keep talking about it. But if you lived in these yellow colonies, you had to send money to King George. When you left the colonies and lived out here in the territories, who's going to even know where you live, right? Oh, yes. This was all a long time ago. So we'll keep watching. Hey, shh. We are recording a lesson. You guys are talking over me like crazy. So I wanted to pause it to make sure you understood that. King George wanted them to stay put in the yellow. Let's see what happens.
The Indians would get to keep their homes and their lands in the West, at least for now.
But there was a problem. Many British colonists didn't want to play along with the agreement.
Many of them were eager to go west, to explore, to live, and to escape the possibility of high British taxes. On July 4, 1776, the colonists signed the Declaration of Independence and broke away from Britain.
The colonies now called themselves the United States of America and called themselves Americans.
The Americans and the British went to war. Most of the fighting occurred in the 13 colonies in the east.
But some important battles were fought west of the Appalachians too.
The man who commanded the British Army there was Henry Hamilton.
Hamilton asked the Indians to help Britain fight the Americans.
All right. That is where we stopped the video. So
What?
that's the slideshow.
Cannot be Alexander. Henry. It's Henry, not Alexander. So funny about
Okay, we're losing time off break. I'm in the middle of recording a lesson. I told you all that at the very beginning. We shouldn't do this either way. All right, School of Rock. We already watched this, and those of you at home, you watched it at home. All right, textbook pages 56 and 57. This is why we already got them out. Everyone should be ready to go. In our textbooks, we are only reading 2 pages today, and we're going to try to figure out the 3 main reasons the American Revolution started. And you're going to write them in your book, wherever you want in the margins. I'm going to write mine on the board.
But if you don't have
You can write them on your whiteboard.
that's my birthday.
Okay, remember I've told you, just writing things down, does that help your brain remember better?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't do these things to annoy you. We do them to help you remember what's important.
Can we do these on the lines?
That'd be great. Anywhere in your textbook, if you have a book, put it in your book. That way you've got it in the future. All right, but first we got to read. We can't answer till we read about it. All right, so your eyes are in the book following along. All right, here we go. Yes, Alex? Nope, I'm just going to read. I want your eyes in the book. I am on the top of page 56. And first, we need to look at that picture of Lady Liberty. All right, now it says Lady Liberty and the Eagle were patriotic symbols during the American Revolution. So the eagle's been around in America for a long time. So people at home, I think most of you have your books, but if you don't, this is the picture we're looking at. Whoop. Okay. Noah?
I know why she's sticking her hand out because of that. It's sticking her hand out like she was holding the candle.
Okay. Could be. All right, you guys see the flag in the background there?
Yeah.
How important do you think the flag was in uniting the colonists against Britain? Do you think it became like their thing, their symbol? Yeah, it did. Quentin, is that what you're going to say? Yeah. All right, so let's read at the very top. Okay, get ready. This is how our nation began. It's an important story to know, so even if you don't think you're into it, you will be by the end, so follow along. That's why I'm going to read it, okay? So please listen, follow along. It was July 1776, and for those of you who don't know, that is the year we became a country. So that's what's coming, okay? 1776 is the year the United States was born, so to speak. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, more than 50 men came together and said, and remember I told you these were 50 rich, white, landowning males, right? So no one else really got much of a say. So that's the group. We declare that these united colonies are free and independent states. Now that was a big deal. Okay, it might not seem like a big deal to you, but this was like changing history. They were standing up to the King of Britain and saying, we don't belong to you anymore, we're leaving. Remember King George, the one we just kind of talked about? No, shh. When we raise our hands, I might talk to you if I call on you, but if not, mm-mm. Why do you think it was going to make the king mad if they all decided to leave and be free? Angie?
Because then they wouldn't be able to give money to the king.
Yep, he loses money, which kind of in turn you also lose power. He didn't want to lose money and power. Each of the 13 colonies was governed by Britain. This made the colonists British subjects. That just means British citizens. Why were they declaring independence? Independence is freedom from being ruled by others. So right now, you all don't have total independence. Who is in charge of you sometimes? You might have a few different people. Alex?
Your dad or mom or
Okay.
teacher.
Parents. Okay. Teachers. Whoever's in charge of you at that time. Angie?
Like if you stay with your grandma or grandpa.
Right. So when you're not 18, do you need someone to be like a guardian to you?
Yeah.
Okay. When you're an adult, do you think you're going to want to have some independence?
Yes.
Yeah. So does everybody else. So they wanted independence from the King of Britain telling them what to do. Like, no, we're independent. All right, now we're down to the road to independence. Please follow along. Recall that 13 years earlier, in 1763, the British won the French and Indian War. And we do recall that. We just talked about it. This war had been very expensive. Do you guys remember who didn't have enough money? Who ran out of supplies? Cadence? Who sided with mostly who? Yeah, the French ran out of money and supplies. Britain needed money to pay its debts. A debt is money that you owe someone. So let's say I went to Dairy Queen with Noah after school, and I said, Noah, I need a Blizzard. I don't have any money. Can you get me a Blizzard? I'll pay you back. Okay, I would have a debt to Noah, right? I owe him money. So Britain owed a lot of people money because they'd probably borrowed a lot so that they could have enough supplies for the war. All right, keep following with me. The British government decided that it could pay its debts by creating new taxes. A tax is money that people pay to support the cost of government. And we talked about taxes can be good, right? It funds the schools. It pays for our roads. Puts bridges over the lake. Oh, not the lake, the river, right? If we didn't have a bridge over the Wabash, we couldn't go to West Lafayette. The British created a tax on sugar. They also passed the Stamp Act. The Stamp Act was a tax on everything printed, from a newspaper to playing cards. So basically everything they were buying had lots of taxes on it. The colonists were forced to pay these taxes and grew angry. Now, I have to pay taxes, and sometimes I don't love it. But do the taxes I pay go towards my own community and the country I live in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the Americans' taxes go to America, or did they go back to Britain? Cadence? So is that fair? No, your money is not going towards things that help your community and your family. It goes to a different country, right? So that would have made me mad too. King George III, that was the goofy guy in the video, the British ruler, did something else that angered the colonists. He issued the Proclamation of 1763. Remember what that one was? That imaginary line? He says, don't move past the mountains. You have to stay in the colonies. He said that no colonist could live west of the line. The lands that were set off limits included what is now Indiana. And he didn't want them to leave because if they left, they wouldn't have to pay him money anymore. So he said, you have to stay. That made them mad. That's like someone telling you what you can and can't do instead of being independent. All right, top of page 57. Colonists wanted to be able to move west to find new land. As British citizens, they felt they should have a say in the laws that affected them. However, British lawmakers refused to listen. Many colonists feared that they were losing their right to self-government. That means making their own rules. So, in 1776, leaders from different colonies Just about there. Hopefully it stays charging this time. Alright, new book day.
What does the robot look like?
It looks like it's Slender.
Slender Man?